What's going on, everybody? Jack Acid here, bringing you episode 12 of the F1 2012 I Am No Expert Career Mode series. And before we get things started for the race, going to go ahead and accept this contract offer from Sauber, which was extended to me prior to Budapest, I believe, and decided to think about it for one race, and realizing now that it's not only my best option, but probably my only option, and taking advantage of the mid-season switch, which is new to the F1 2000 series from Codemasters. So this will be my first weekend with the new team here at Spa. As you can see, we've got some gray overcast here in practice, and checking out the white duds, taking over for Sergio Perez. Don't have the opportunity to decide which driver we replace, unfortunately, which was something that I hoped would be included in this year's release, but unfortunately that's not the case. So teamed up with Kamui Kobayashi, and you can see here having all kinds of problems here at the very tricky turn 10, also known as Pujon. So that would pretty much end my practice session, and so going to have to hope that we do better here in qualifying here in Q1. You can see now have very clear skies and don't expect to see any rain, but I am going to go ahead and check the weather. Very important to make sure we don't need to set up for a wet race, if in fact that's what's to be. But as you can see, very clear weekend, kind of a rare thing here at Spa. And if you don't know already, this is my favorite circuit on the calendar, even though it's extremely challenging. Not going to mess around, going to go ahead and go out on the option tires. I pretty much have no hope with the primes, and given that this is a new team, I really don't know what to expect much from the car. And played around with some setups in practice before the accident, and really had a hard time finding anything that I liked. So I'm actually just going to stick with the default for this race and see how well I do. So coming around here at the end of lap 2, and you can see getting up into P5, but immediately erased down into P6 as soon as I get across the line. So going to see how things go later on in the session. Desperate to get into Q2. And you can see here near the end of lap 3, falling behind, now down into P10. Remember, we have to get into the top 17 in order to move on to Q2. So let's see what we do here. And despite shaving nearly a full second off our time, not able to have any kind of an impact on timing and scoring, and now running low on fuel, going to go ahead and pull back into the garage, and you can see dropping down into 18th spot. So going to have to go out and get a couple more laps in before the session's over. Going to throw in a fresh set of options and hope that it has some kind of an impact. And as you can see, the session winding down, under 10 seconds to play. Getting my gears all wrong coming out of the final corner, but it really made no difference. I had a miserable final lap, just over 3.5 seconds off the pace from my previous lap. And that is not the way that I wanted to start things off here with Sauber, but that's the way it'll go. Getting embarrassed by my teammate, Kamui Kobayashi, finishing in the 12th spot. And of course, that's going to lead me to have the oh-so-disappointing conversation with my engineer to figure out how to get this car dialed in. But that's going to have to wait for another weekend. No time to grieve now as we move on to race day. And as previously mentioned, got a clear day here. Don't expect any rain in the forecast. Team objective has been adjusted. They want me to finish in 12th spot. Let's take a quick look at the starting grid. Lewis Hamilton on pole position, Vettel down in 5th, and Romain Grosjean down in 9th spot. Jean-Eric Vergne, who's now back in the picture after I left Toro Rosso, finishing 11th, so that's a pretty good start for him. And here's the bottom of the grid. Vitaly Petrov down in 23rd, and Felipe Massa, not sure what happened to his qualifying session, but he's starting off in 17th, so he's got it all to do this weekend. Taking a look at our race strategy, you can see starting off on normal fuel load, like to keep it somewhere in the middle, and going to go ahead and start on the options despite the fact I'm starting 18th. Could gamble and go with the primes, but I think I'm going to want to try and keep up with the front part of the grid if I can throughout the first handful of laps, so going to go ahead and stick with the options and see if we can even sniff the points for this race. Again, my first for Sauber. So here is the lights count down, staring at the back of Nico Hulkenberg in the Force India and lined up next to Felipe Massa in the Ferrari. And here we go, a little bit of wheel spin off the line, but otherwise a pretty good start. And hoping to get on the inside down here at turn 1 and hopefully get around some of these cars. Now making slight contact there with Maldonado, cutting along on the inside. Let's see how the positions shake out after turn 1, up into P13. Now looking at the back of Nico Rosberg in the Mercedes as we scream down to Eau Rouge, and the AI is very slow through here, going to try and get aggressive. And unfortunately, illegal overtake there of Jean-Eric Vergne, going to have to let him take that position back. And there he goes, now pushing very, very hard, competing with Grosjean in the Lotus. and really don't want to give up another spot if I can. Should be able to outbrake Grosjean down here. And getting aggressive for the 10 spot, cutting on the inside here at turn 5 on the inside of Vergne, almost come into contact with the Toro Rosso, but avoid it. And no warning from the stewards, but being scolded by my engineer that that was far too aggressive, and I actually have to agree. Thought I'd have a little more room to work with there, so fortunately no incurred penalty, and better yet, keep both cars on the track. So right now running with a single point, P10, and that could be key as this race goes on. The AI seems very quick here at Spa, and I'm afraid that if I let the race go on too long, the harder it's going to be to make up that time, that's for sure. Of course, this is my first time out in a mid-tier car, so it could be different now. And actually, I don't have a whole lot of experience playing this game other than what I've been doing here in career mode. I did go through with the Season Challenge Mode series, which I have online. But other than that, I've really only driven the cars that I've been using here in career mode, which has only been Toro Rosso and now Sauber. So still have a lot of room to experiment with this game. Unfortunately, don't have as much time to commit to it as I'd like to. And I think actually, given my hiatus the last month or so, a lot of that lack of practice has shown up when I picked it up to get back at it. And by the way, thanks to those who have checked in and asked me if I'm dead or not. I apologize that my postings have been so slow lately, but honestly, time just hasn't been on my side. Have a lot of other stuff getting in the way at the moment, so I will keep at it. Definitely going to finish up this season, and anxious to start a new series when Grid 2 comes out in May. So might take a little break in between. Might continue to post some Forza Horizon if you're interested in that. Just not sure if I'll be able to do all the commentary for them, but at least post the events if people are interested in the gameplay. So anyway, here at the start of lap 2, as I've thoroughly digressed, still running in P10, and you can see the gaps are reasonably expanded as we come up here along the Kimmel Straight, just making sure I'm checking in on what the AI is doing. So skipping ahead here to lap 4, and things mostly uneventful, and you can see still have a pretty good gap back to Nico Rosberg back in P11. But as I mentioned earlier on, Spa is very fast, and there's definitely a handful of corners that give me a hard time, namely this one up here at turn 12. Very, very challenging for me to get my braking point right, and trying to learn my way through it. Managed it reasonably well through there. Now coming around Fanus, and you want to be around 4th gear by the time you get leveled out up there. So now coming around here, rolling up over the curb just a bit, and you can see shaved off a little over half a second off my previous lap. And so that's a good sign. Tires are holding up reasonably well. Now skipping ahead here to lap 5. And as predicted, the AI has caught up with me, mostly because of so few of the corners that I have mastered. That one there, turn 9, also tends to give me some problems, but able to manage it okay there. Now coming through turn 10, where I had problems in practice, and able to hold the car well. Should be flat out going down there. And looking back, I usually check on the AI right through there. Usually they're pretty quick, so the fact that I'm staying ahead of Nico through there at least is encouraging. But you can see that he's all over me once again there at turns 12 and 13. And going a little bit wide here at turn 14 and almost rolling off into the sand. And Nico, if he had been a little bit more on the inside, probably could have made a push. But in this case, able to avoid disaster. Now being hailed by my engineer to come in to go into pit. But you can see that my tire wear is actually not that bad at all. In fact, really thinking that I might want to stay out here at the end of lap 5 of 11. And might be able to make up some ground. I just sort of feel foolish going in already when the tires aren't that worn and they're holding up pretty well. Going a little bit wide there at the bus stop. And you can see getting ready to pass a good train of cars in pit row. And able to get up into P3 as a result. And it looks like I'm looking at the back of a Kobayashi up in P2. So undoubtedly he'll be going into pit. And hopefully we won't run into each other in the pit lane, because I think I will only stay one more lap out. Oh, check this out. Isn't that weird? All of a sudden I started getting audio glitches like that, I think after the last update. I'm not sure if that's a bug or what. I haven't had time to look into it, but it's pretty annoying. As you can see here, checking on the pace of the AI coming down the Kimmel Straight. Rosberg able to gain steam at the very end, but not going to make any difference. Able to stay ahead of him, and now starting to lose a little bit of grip on the tires. And I am going to have to go in. You can see Kobayashi up ahead of me, as indicated on the gold dot on the little mini-map. Going a little bit wide here through Rivage, a corner in which early on in my F1 playing days gave me a lot of trouble, but I've since felt pretty comfortable on, I'd say, the last year or so. But now you can see the Nico Rosberg having none of it, and actually thinking about having a look on the inside of turn 10. Extremely easy to go off track there, and able to get my nose pointed in the right direction and punch it flat out. If you don't get your angle right coming around there, it's extremely easy to go off. And Nico Rosberg gaining steam on me, now chasing me down. Clearly he's going to have to go into pit when I do, or at least around the same time. It'll be interesting to see if he decides to stay out, even though the race is waning on here. And you can see that my tire indicators say that my tires aren't too bad, and they feel decent, as Nico Rosberg looking for some space here, coming around this extremely fast set of corners all the way up into 7th gear, and you could take this last one flat out as long as you've got your nose pointed right. And let's see if Nico goes into pit. It looks like Kobayashi has either been in. Yes, he's going into pit right now as I get a warning from the stewards for corner cutting coming up over the bus stop and almost taking off my front wing. It's an extremely challenging pit entry. And it looks like I am, in fact, going to come out right behind my teammate, but hopefully he won't hold me up. And there goes Kamui, so perfect timing. And let's see what kind of a time we get out of the team here. And trying to stay ahead of Nico, there goes a Williams. And yes, it looks like we were able to stay ahead of the Mercedes coming out. So now the challenge, of course, is going to be to keep everything leveled out on the cold tires. Ooh, almost crossed over the pit exit line there. And if you've never experienced that, do yourself a favor and don't. It's absolutely horrible getting hit with that penalty coming out of the pit exit. Be very careful about that. But the good news is we've rejoined in P9. Coming up over here at the Kemmel Straight, no problems with the tires so far. Of course, it's early on. But usually you'll feel some loss of grip right away, and so far so good. But Spa, of course, is full of all kinds of strange apexes and speeds that you have to master in order to hit everything correctly. But you can see managing these first sets pretty well as we come down here to the very tricky turn 8. Always a nightmare in wet conditions. And now the cold tire's catching up with me as I drift wide here, and that's going to give Nico Rosberg a chance to get right back in it. Staying in 3rd gear coming around here, and let's see what kind of pace he has coming through turn 10 and 11. Like I said, turn 11 is usually when the AI is very quick, and it's usually when I do a little benchmark test there and along the Kemmel Straight. And actually I'll throw turn 15 in there. They're also usually very fast through there. So that's usually how I can tell how I'm doing with the pace of the AI. Trying to navigate turn 12, and Nico Rosberg anxious to get greedy. But now backing off, and so let's see if we can manage turn 14. And going a little bit wide here, have to drop it down into 2nd gear, and that's going to give Nico a look for just a moment. And of course the bad sector time you can see there is related to the pit stop. And as I just mentioned, coming out of turn 15, like to take a quick look back to see what the AI is doing. And you can see that I've got a okay gap right now, and that's probably related to the fact that Nico had to avoid contact with me as I almost went into the sand there. So probably not a lot to hang my hat on. Coming down here to the bus stop, let's see how we do. Not quite hitting that last corner just right. Having problems at the chicane. Remember, I did get the corner cutting warning as I went in for my pit stop. So now here at the start of lap 8, going to go ahead and turn up my fuel mix. Haven't burned off any extra fuel, so I should have a good 3-4 laps of fuel to get me through the end of the race here on the prime tires. So holding P9 for now, anxious to get those 2 points. It's been kind of a rough couple of races for me. Didn't do well in Hungary. Missed out on the points there, and also had a poor qualifying session, so this is the 2nd weekend in a row that I've had such a difficult time. Now just checking on Nico Rosberg to see how he's handling the Kemmel Straight, and you can see not gaining a whole lot of ground on me. That's the big difference between this car and the Toro Rosso. Sauber is much faster down these straights. So now trying to keep both wheels on the tarmac through turn 6, and starting to lose it here at Malmedy, and able to recover. And that was a close call. That would have been good for probably 2 or 3 positions lost if something had gone wrong there. So now here at the start of lap 9, Nico Rosberg and I are probably going to be dueling till the bitter end. And the AI tends to be very, very quick and aggressive nearing the end of the race. And if there's one thing that I need to work on in my playtime with this game, it's to handle pressure better. So hopefully won't have any problems with Nico here on the final couple of laps. You can see I burned off 1 extra lap of fuel, so I'm down to 2. And look at this action on the mini-map in the bottom left corner. Roman Grosjean has now overtaken Kimi there at the top of Eau Rouge. And now getting a little bit concerned with my fuel. Going to go ahead and turn that down and save it for at least lap 10 or so. Don't want to run too low on it, but Grosjean now, very strong push, getting past Nico Rosberg. And so here late in the race, the face of my enemy has changed from that of the German to the young brash Frenchman, who's a very good driver as long as he can stay out of trouble. So here at the start of lap 10, going to go ahead and burn off the rest of my fuel. Going to go ahead and take you through the last couple of laps of the race. As you can see, Grosjean very hot on my heels, and I've got a strong feeling that we will be competing coming out of Eau Rouge down the Kemmel Straight. Going to have to be braced for that. And as you may have noticed, the AI is very quick coming out of Eau Rouge. And judging by where Grosjean's out on the mini-map, that's going to be the case here. So here he comes to have a go, heading into the DRS zone, drifting left, and slight contact there with Grosjean. You can see him backing off now. Don't believe I damaged his front wing, but was trying to keep it online. And came into contact with the Lotus. Truth be known, I was probably being a little bit of a bully there, but we won't talk about that. Trying to maintain my concentration now, heading down into turn 8. And you can see that Grosjean, not intimidated at all over my gearbox, coming around turn 8, managing this a lot better than before. And now coming around turn 9, trying not to go wide. And this is a wide part of the track. Let's see if he's going to have a go. And very close now, looking on the inside. Let's see if he's got the metal to try and overtake at turn 10. And backing off now, trying to maintain my focus, rolling up over the candy stripes, but able to stay on the inside. And Grosjean extremely quick through here. Now coming through the dreaded turn 12. Will I go wide? A little bit there, but not too bad. Want to be rolling up over that curb if I can. But you can see that Grosjean keeping very, very good pace and just waiting for me to make a key mistake. And that corner in particular, I've had problems with, and fortunately holding it together there. Very desperate to keep this P9 spot if possible, but Grosjean extremely quick, coming up here through turn 16 and now into turn 17, burning off my Kers, which I've been using mostly through the race whenever I get into trouble with the AI. And now Grosjean backing off a great deal as we come down to the very hard braking point of the bus stop, rolling up over the curb there and starting to lose the car just a little bit and able to catch myself, and Grosjean right back on top of me, and we've got one lap to get this done. And we'll see if I'll be able to hold off Grosjean for one final lap coming around turn 1. And going to be very conservative on this final lap because I tend to find that the AI is pretty forgiving about not trying to overtake you as long as you're staying online. But of course that's the real trick, isn't it? But the first test of the final lap is Eau Rouge. We know that Grosjean's very quick coming out of it, and this time no different. And here he comes, very reminiscent of the last lap, and this time no contact with the Lotus. But you can see that he's still very, very quick coming down here and hoping to maintain my focus coming down through here and starting to go wide here and up over the curb here at turn 6. Trying to get all 4 wheels back on the tarmac and able to do so. But you can see the Grosjean looking for any kind of a window and coming down to Rivage for one final time and going a little bit wide here. Let's see if Grosjean makes an inside move. No, he does not. And now through turn 9 and rolling up over the curb here, and again losing my focus. And this is what I talked about earlier on in the race, that I just have a difficult time with this pressure. I'm just so anxious to get to the finish line. Managing turn 10 a lot better, getting my nose pointed in the right direction and able to go flat out 5th gear down into 6, coming around here down into turn 12. And one final test here, and you can see being pretty conservative, probably getting a little too much curb, but just so anxious to avoid going wide, and Grosjean having none of it, being extremely quick and right up on my gearbox nose to tail, and coming through turn 16, almost going wide there. And now you can see that some of the other AI cars have caught up with this, so this is going to be a loss of 2 or 3 positions if I have any problems. Coming around to turn 17, should have no problems through here, as I typically don't. And now, just coming down to the bus stop is the final test to get a P9 spot and good for 2 points. And as you can see, very anxious to get through that final chicane, even though I get the exit a little bit wrong there. And able to get a couple of points out of this, given that I had a really tough go at Budapest, and also given that I started 18th here. Pretty happy with my result. You can see my teammate finishing 4th, so not able to beat out Kobayashi, but not a bad result for my first race out with Sauber. Let's take a look at the final results. Mark Webber winning the race there with Sebastian Vettel close behind. Fernando Alonso able to finish off the podium, and Kamui right there. And taking a look at the bottom part of the grid, you can see Lewis Hamilton not able to finish, unfortunately for him. And Felipe Massa only able to manage 15th. And Grosjean falling back a few spots from his starting spot of 11th. And Paul Di Resta finishing in 8th spot. So pretty good result for him. And overall, not a bad result for the team. So taking a quick look at the Drivers' Championship, and you can see I'm running in P9 and a couple of spots behind Kamui there. And it would be nice if I could finish ahead of him. Looks like I'm only about 13 points behind him as of now, with quite a few races to go, even though we are past the halfway point here on the season. So that'll probably be my personal objective moving forward, trying to stay ahead of Kamui. I suspect I'll be with Sauber next season, so hopefully we'll get a fresh start from scratch. and hopefully after next year I can move on to a higher team, maybe Lotus or someone of the like. So going to leave you guys here with some race highlights. Want to thank you for watching. Again, I apologize for the slow posts. Hopefully they'll pick up some steam. I have been invested in other games, unfortunately, so that's kind of cut into my time with F1 2012. But like I said, I will be finishing the season no matter what. So hope that you'll be back to join me. And good news is I'm already done with Monza, so I can move on to that one already. And then the following race after that's going to be Singapore, which is an extremely difficult uphill climb for me. It's probably my least favorite track on the calendar, so I'll be wanting to get through that ASAP just to get it out of the way. So thanks again for watching, everybody, and I hope to see you soon.